In this video, I'll be talking about something that may seem simple, but it can determine the success of your book. And that is choosing the right trim size, bleed, and margins. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Sean and I've made well over 7 figures from my own Amazon KDP business. And my goal with these videos is to help you start making money on Amazon KDP. And hopefully when you're ready to scale your business, you come back and join my KDP courses and mentorship programs, which if you want to learn more, you can check out the first link in the description below. All right, so with that being said, let's talk about the trim size of your books first. So as an example, I looked up word search books for adults. There are a lot of books on here on the market, but if you check out each one, they all pretty much follow the same size. This one right here, as you can see, the dimensions are 8.5 by 11. This one right here, 8.5 by 11. This one right here is also 8.5 by 11. Now it's not 100% of the time the same size. Like this one as an example is different. It's 6 by 9, which is a little smaller, but typically they all kind of follow the same trim size. But why is that? Well, that's because each type of book has a standard size. Depending on the type of book, the standard size could be bigger or smaller, but they all kind of have a standard size. Let me give you another example. So this one is a coloring book for children search results. And we have this book at 8.5 by 11. This book at 8.5 by 11. This one is the same 8.5 by 11 and same as this one. That's because word searches and coloring books, typically with these activity books where you actually fill out the pages, you want it in a bigger size so it's easier to actually work with the pages. If the book is too small and you're trying to color it in, obviously it's not a good experience. So depending on what kind of books you're publishing, there are tried and tested sizes that you should consider. So let's talk about a few major ones. So first off is children's books, right? So examples are, once again, coloring books, alphabet learning books, bedtime storybooks, or any kind of storybooks in general, tracing letter books, and many other activity books typically fall under this category. So for these books, the recommended size for the small one, and if you want a square look, then I recommend you do 8.5 by 8.5. If you want a large size, which are more standard, I would say 8.5 by 11 inches is typically the size everyone go with. Just to show you some examples, once again, we got this book, 50 Animals Coloring Book and Fun Facts for Kids. It is 8.5 by 11. So this is how you can analyze your competitor's trim size just by looking at the product page right here. And with BookBeam, which is a paid tool that I have, if you guys want to check it out, the link is in the description below. It actually tells me the actual royalties this book is making. So this book is doing $50 to $60 every single day. That is $1,500 a month. This is another example here, Mermaid Coloring Book. It is 8.5 by 11, doing $30 to $40 a day. 8.5 by 11, once again, is a big, book. And the benefit of this is that your overall page count lowers because obviously if the page is bigger, you can put a lot more text and images on one page so that you need less pages. If you have a smaller trim size, typically your page count goes up. And the Amazon printing cost is calculated based on the page numbers, right? So if you have less pages, then the printing cost is lower, which means you will have a higher profit margin. So it's actually a good strategy to try and have your page count as low as possible, while obviously providing a good experience for your customer, of course. So 8.5 by 11 is a great size for these activity books. Next is fiction books. So fiction books, we're talking comics, manga, or any kind of novels, could be romance, mystery, anything, right? And also sci-fi stories as well. Now for these ones, unfortunately 8.5 by 11 would be way too big. It'll be really weird to have a 8.5 by 11, a huge book that is basically a novel, right? So the standard size for these books are typically smaller. So we are talking 5 by 8, or if you want to go a little bigger, 5.25 by 8 inches, or even 6 by 9, but typically people stay within the 5 by 8 range. Like this book right here, Once You're Mine, a dark stalker romance, right? This is a kind of a typical fiction book that you see, and you can see that it's 5 by 8 inches, making hundreds of dollars a day. So once again, with these smaller trim sizes, your page count will go up, but it's better to prioritize customer experience. And when customers buy these books, they are obviously expecting your book to be around the 5 by 8 size, and you should prioritize that than to try and make your book 8.5 by 11, lower the page count, and you have a little higher profit margin, less printing costs. You don't want to do that if it sacrifices customer experience. So the next one is nonfiction books. So these are cookbooks, travel guides, self-help guides, academic books, pretty much any how-to books in general. Recommended size, if you want to go small, 5 by 8 is a good one. I use 5 by 8 a lot for my nonfiction books. If you want to go a little bigger, 6x9 is actually a good size as well. So between 5x8 to 6x9, any of those trim sizes will work. These are some examples of a nonfiction book. So this is a super easy and quick Mediterranean diet cookbook for beginners. 6x9 inches, as you can see, making $35 a day. And this is a what not to do in Paris travel guide. Once again, 6x9 inches and doing $7 to $15 a day. Next are low content books. So these are journals, planners, sketchbooks, even coloring books. We kind of talked about it earlier, but kind of falls into this category. There are many different types of books, so the size ranges. But if you're doing journals, planners, typically these are 6x9. People prefer a smaller size for these ones. Nobody really want to carry around a huge 8.5x11 journal, right? But if you're doing sketchbooks or coloring books, something that you actually, draw in, right? Obviously you want a bigger page for that so you can enjoy the pages more. So it really depends on the type of book, but for those ones, we recommend 8.5x11. Once again, those are the standard size. Next are coffee table books. So these are architectural design books, photography collections, travel photo books, art books. And for these ones, 10x10 or some kind of, square size is good. Typically people like a bigger size, and 10x10 once again is a square size. So those are the standard size we see. Like this one right here, History as They Saw It. This is a little bigger than 10x10. It's 10x11.25, but it's within the range, doing $92 a day. Next is specific niche books, something like poetry books, right? So if you're doing poetry, same thing, people don't really want to carry around a huge book on poetry, right? Typically these are pocket sizes, so something smaller like 5x8, if not 6x9, but I would recommend 5x8 is more a standard size for this. So something like this, Learning to Love Myself, it is a poetry book doing extremely well. It's a 5x8 inch size, and it's doing $400 to $600 every single day. So this one book is making between $12,000 to $18,000 every single month. So when you're making a book, it's good to follow the standard size of the market. When I was publishing my first book on Amazon KDP, I made the mistake of choosing the wrong size for my book. I chose a size that was way too big for my genre, and it ended up looking like a textbook, and it didn't really resonate with my audience. And after doing more research and changing to a standard size, my sales picked up significantly. So my advice is don't reinvent the wheel, study what's working for bestsellers in your niche, and let that guide you. So now that you've settled on a size, you got your book interior, the next step is to go and create your book cover. Now KDP does offer an option to create your book cover. As you can see here, they do have a built-in cover creator, but it's extremely limited. So if you want to actually create a book cover that stands out, then you either have to hire a professional book cover designer if you don't want to learn the skills yourself, or you want to learn how to design it on Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, or even Canva. Now I do have a step-by-step tutorial on how to create a book cover on Canva for those beginners out there. If you guys want to check it out, I'll leave a link to this YouTube video in the description below. Now, in the process of creating your book cover, there are a few more important things that you have to understand. So the first thing is to go and figure out your actual dimensions for your full book cover. So what you want to do is go to this website, kdp.amazon.com/cover calculator. I'll leave a link below this video once again. And let's just say that we want to create a paperback book, black and white interior, white paper, left to right reading direction, measurement in inches, and we're doing an 8.5x11 inch size and a 100-page book. Now these settings, such as black and white interior, white paper, these are typically what we recommend for beginners because the printing cost is a lot lower than colored interior pages, so it's just a lot easier to make profit. So anyways, once you calculate the dimensions, you'll see this full cover width and height. This is the information you need when you're plugging this into Canva or any kind of designing tool. So even though your front cover is 8.5x11, right? This is the size that we chose. The full cover is actually not 8.5x11 because the front cover right here, this page right here, is 8.5x11, but you have to go and design the front, the spine, and the back cover, all of it together, which means that the dimension, the width and height, will actually be this. So when you're going to Canva, you want to click on custom size, change this to inches. And for the width and height, you're not putting 8.5x11 when you're creating your paperback cover, you're actually putting this right here. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully this makes sense. Once again, if you need a step-by-step tutorial, check out the video link in the description below. Now, the next thing you have to understand is the bleed and margins. So we talked about trim size. Now we want to talk about bleed and margins. Again, I'll leave a link to this page that is from KDP support, but essentially a bleed is when your text or image goes all the way to the end of the page. So you can see on the left side, it is no bleed, meaning the image does not go all the way to the end of the page. There are some space in between. On the right, it is bleed, right? So it's going all the way to the end. And so this section will be cut off once it's printed. The thing is, even if you have one page in your entire book that is bleed, then you will have to select bleed for the entire book. So when you're creating your book interior, you want to make sure you click on here and you see the page size with and without bleed. So if we are designing our interiors with bleed, and since we have a book that is 8.5 by 11, you want to come all the way down here and find your size here. In our case, it's this one, 8.5 by 11. And we want to look at here because it's page size with bleed. So instead of designing a page size with 8.5 by 11, it's actually going to be 8.625 by 11.25. Because these extra point, something inches is accounting for the bleed. But what if your book doesn't have a bleed, right? If that's the case, then you just design it as 8.5 by 11, which is very easy. So aside from the trim size and bleed or no bleed, margins is the next thing you have to understand. So imagine having a book where the text or the image goes all the way to the end of the book, right? That'll look very weird. So in order to avoid this, you need to set margins so that the text and the image stays well within the boundaries. Which brings us back to this page right here. You want to scroll down a little bit where it says margins, and now we have this information right here. So we basically have to just apply our books here. So in our case, we have a 100-page book, so it falls under the 24 to 150 pages section, which means that our inside margin is 0.375 inches. And then we have the option of if our book has no bleed or if our book has bleed, right? So in our case, we selected a book that has bleed, so we're gonna be using this number right here of the outside margin of at least 0.375. So when you're designing your interior on Canva, as an example, you want to make sure you add a 0.375 inches margin, on top of it. So if you're doing Canva, the easy way is simply to drag your ruler down here and give at least 0.375 like this, right? So if you don't have this ruler showing up, all you have to do is Shift plus R and it should show up. Same as the left side here, we just drag it over to at least 0.375. And we just want to do the same thing for the right side and the bottom. So those are the basics on trim size, margins, and bleed or no bleed. A little confusing in the beginning, but once you practice it, it gets easier over time, especially if you start designing the book covers yourself. So once again, the best way to learn it is to just practice it. So check out the links in the description below on some other tutorials that I've done, where you can follow along and create a book interior as well as a book cover on Canva. And if you want to join my complete Amazon KDP program where I've helped over 1,200 people make money with Amazon KDP, some are even doing 4, 5, or even 6 figures a month, then you can check out the first link in the description below. With that being said, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.